All right, today we're going to talk about color. So, one of the biggest differences between the first semester and the second semester of art history is that the second semester is where most of the colors are. The majority of the art that we're going to look at this semester is made of stone and is lacking of bright colors. Some of the stone will be of different colors. See those on there on the left have this reddish kind of hint. Down here is a purple. Some are very light stone, some is a very dark stone, and the Egyptian down here is a very neutral stone. And then there's bronze, and bronze is kind of lacking of color as well. You know, there's some patinas on the bronze, like you see in the Marcus Aurelius equestrian sculpture, but mostly it's this greenish, brownish, and grayish type of color. And then we have terracotta, which is a reddish clay. And then there's wood, bone, and ivory that has a white tint to it. There is some artworks, or there are some artworks that have that were polychrome when they were first made, but now the colors have all washed away and faded away. And you can still see some of the polychrome on that tints the. Hey, how you doing? You still see some of the polychrome that tints the shades or the shapes on the figures, and on some like the Pietà over here on the left, the paint is kind of worn away. However, there's enough color this semester that we can analyze some works of art. So, color is the element of art derived from a reflected light. So the color spectrum is a beam of light bent into different colors. I'm sure you've seen this Pink Floyd album cover. It shows. I'm sure you had the elementary science experiment where you shone light into a prism, and then it shone light onto the wall in a spectrum. And the visible light that we see is only a small fraction of the rays that are in surrounding us. Objects absorb some waves of light and reflect others. So here's how color works. The light shines on an object like the sun shines on an apple, and the apple absorbs some waves of light and reflects others. So the apple is going to absorb all the waves of light except for red and then reflect red. And that is why we see a red apple. The light travels into the eye, and once in the eye, the light travels into the retina to the back of the eyeball, and that's where the rods and cones send a message to the brain signifying shapes, value, and color. And another thing is, when I talk about color, is that we see everything is upside down. So the top of the tree goes in through the eye and hits the bottom of the back of the eyeball. And the bottom of the tree goes through the eye and hits the top of the back of the eyeball. And so we see everything is upside down. Right now, everything is upside down that you are looking at. And then our brain interprets the message and it sees it as right side up. Now, the first people to start discussing color theory, they were in the 19th century, and we will talk about that a lot next semester. All right, so but they invented the color wheel, and if we take a look at the color wheel, it is a spectrum of light bent into a circle. And there's all different kinds of color wheels. You know, there's the one on the right is rather simplified. The one on the left is a little bit complex. And like I said, there's all different kinds of color wheels. But basically, they all follow the same principle, which is if you look at the upper left, it yellow and then yellow, orange, then orange, red, and so on until it goes back up to yellow. A tint is a light value of a color. When you add white to a color, you are tinting it. Shade is the dark value of a color. When you add black to a color, you are giving it a shade. So here is a color wheel that has all the tints and the shades. It looks like the pure colors around the outside, the tints are in the center of the circle, and the shades are around the outside of the circle. And then I don't know if you've ever seen this on a computer as you do, if you do any kind of artwork on the computer, but this is all the tints and shades of orange. Pure orange is up here in the upper right. And as you go farther to the left, it's adding white. As you go farther down to the bottom, it's adding black. And then you have white and black added throughout this. So you can click on any of these pixels, and it'll give you a different shade of, or a different value of orange. Intensity is how bright or dull a color is. A high intensity color is a pure hue, and that is the color straight out of the tube. You cannot get any more pure than out of a tube. Anything you add to a color lowers the intensity. So if I add white to that red, it'll turn it pink and lower its intensity. If I add black to it, if I add any other colors, it changes the colors and lowers the intensity. And there are some artists who paint with high intensity colors. And we'll talk about them more in the second semester of art history. But with these high intensity colors, we can look at the polychrome aspect of art history. That these sculptures were painted with high intensity colors straight out of the tube or whatever medium that they were making. So if they're, I think on some of them it's encaustic, on some it is temper paint, but when they paint, they're using just the solid color, and that creates a high intensity. And you can see the high intensity colors here, that the variation of the color comes from years of the color being worn off of the wall. But you can see that the yellows are very bright, the reds are certainly bright, the purples are bright, and it gives a high intensity color to what is going on. The blues and the greens are close to a high intensity color. Complementary colors are opposite colors on the wheel. I'm going to go back and these. This one right here, there's a lot of blending of the blues and the greens, and so that kind of lowers the intensity of what we're looking at. All right, complementary colors are opposite colors on the color wheel. So blue is the opposite of orange. And then when you mix the opposite colors together, they dull the intensity. So blue and orange mixed together makes a dull color. Red and green mixed together creates a dull color. And some artists love to paint with dull colors, like Edouard Vuillard here paints with, he uses a lot of gray in his painting. So if you see any blues in here, like up in here and down here, it is mostly gray with a little bit of blue. Here's gray with green added into it. Here's gray with orange added into it. Here's gray with that lighter green, kind of like the yellow. But this whole has a sense of like this gray film over the entire scene, creating a low intensity color. And that happens a lot, or we see that a lot in the first semester, because most of the artwork that we're looking at, it's been worn away or the colors have faded over time. And so we see low intensity colors. And here we can see evidence of a former polychrome where it would have been a high intensity, but because the colors are worn off or faded, we can see these low intensity blues. I can see yellows, reds, or oranges of what used to be there. In the Roman houses or homes, the first style of painting was done with low intensity colors. And in the Aztec and Mayan codices, they and I'm guessing these would have been high intensity colors at the time, but over time they have lowered in their intensities. Monochromatic is tints and shades of one color. This Picasso painting on the left is all in blues. This is from his blue period. did lots of paintings with blue, and there's like light blue and dark blue and all kinds of variations of blue. Some blue looks a little bit greenish, and it almost looks like a film of we are looking through a film of blue at this scene. So we see that in the cave paintings where they used red ochre to paint. And in analogous colors, those are colors that sit side by side on the color wheel and share a common hue. So if you look at a color wheel, if you have a bunch of colors on one side, those are analogous to each other. That means they are next to each other. So this Cezanne painting.
Pardon the interruption. We have a couple cars that need moved off the marching band lot. There is a black Buick sedan, license plate MHL6762, and looks like a new black BMW 328i, license plate 3890H55. We'll do our best to keep our instruments away from it, but we'll be running circles around them. Please move your cars. Thank you.
So this Picasso, or no, sorry, this Cezanne painting that we're going to visit next semester only works from this side of the color wheel. You see the blues and the blue greens and the greens, and it even gets into like a little bit of this orange. And so that's what we are seeing over here. Van Gogh did the same thing in this sunflower painting, that he is working from this side of the color wheel. These using analogous colors. And in this mural painting on the wall, it's using analogous colors with all the blues and the greens, and even the little bit of orange and the yellow orange down here for this wall around here. It's using these analogous colors. And we can see that this artist was using colors on one side of the color wheel. And with other complementary colors, we can see orange and blue. And we can see that here in the standard of Ur. It has the blue lapis lazuli and the shells. These are done in, it has a very kind of orange tint. So we could talk about the complementary colors, that high contrast between opposite colors really makes the figures stand out. We can see again the orange and blue, or and orange is so close to yellow that oftentimes like gold and blue and yellow and blue and orange and blue are kind of in the same kind of boat, that they're opposite colors on the color wheel. So like with this gold and blue or the yellow and blue, we get a lot of imagery that uses blue and gold together. It's kind of the warm part of this has like a really orange tint to it. But lots of images in the first semester with blue and gold. These can be considered opposite colors or complementary colors. And then red and green are opposite colors, and blue or purple and yellow are opposite colors. But we don't see much of that in the first semester. Hue is the technical name for a color. The primary hues cannot be made from other colors. That's red, yellow, and blue. And then a triad is three colors equally spaced on the color wheel. And I found that in the northern medieval era, or with the Vikings and the Hiberno-Saxons and their jewelry making. The yellow is the gold, and the red and the blue. So this could be considered a primary color scheme on this. With secondary colors, they are made from two primary colors mixed together. So like purple, orange, and yellow, or sorry, purple, orange, and green are secondary colors. Orange is a combination of red and yellow, so it's between them. Red and blue will make purple, and blue and yellow will make green. So OGP stands for Original Gangsta Pimp. No, it's actually orange, green, and purple. So I've had students do artworks that have secondary colors. So here's one of them. And the orange is the skin tone in the background, and they have green and purple. This is a secondary color scheme on that one. Intermediate colors are made from a primary color mixed with the next secondary hue. So like yellow orange, yellow green, blue purple, red orange. These are all intermediate colors. And with intermediate colors, the artists of the first semester are not as sophisticated in their color making as are artists in the second semester. So you won't see a lot of this, the yellow oranges. In fact, well, let's see if we can go back to like some of these. You can see, maybe it's just how it was photographed, or and in like this right here. This is what I'm looking for. You can see this as kind of like maybe it's an orange, maybe it's yellow orange, but it still serves kind of the same purpose of blue and an opposite color. All right, I'm going to move ahead to warm colors suggest warmth and appear to advance towards the viewer. So that's why all the fast food restaurants are mostly done with warm colors because warm colors grab our attention. And that's also why road signs are done mostly in warm colors, especially ones that warn you of danger. Those are warm colors because they get our attention. And so, an artist, some modern artists will work only in warm colors, but and then I've had my students do our works in warm colors. But in the first semester, the cave artists, the prehistoric artists in the Paleolithic era, they used mostly warm colors because it was the red ochre and the yellow ochre that was available to them. Um, we can even see the skin tones of certain sculptures have a warmness to them. And then the warm colors in this really stand out and get our attention. And it is the red that is in this mural that really stands out and gets our attention. And the Minoan mural really stands out and gets our attention. The red columns of the Minoan palaces get our attention. So these warm colors that pop out and get our attention, that's what warm colors do. You can see the warm colors in this to get our attention. And it's the reds that pop out in this one. Cool colors suggest coolness that seem to recede into the distance. So that is purple, green, and blue. Think of like a blue, cool swimming pool that is blue, and the cool grass under your feet, and the purple mountains in the distance. So these are all using cool colors. And this garden mural is all in cool colors mostly for the foliage. This one uses a lot of cool colors, or it has a big, like a big portion of it is in cool colors. And if you want something to grab a viewer's attention, give it some warm colors and surround it with cool colors. So on this one, it is the orange boat that grabs your attention because the warm color stands out, and it stands out even further because it is surrounded by cool colors. Same with these. The strawberries get our attention because they're surrounded by cool colors, and the plains as well. So this right here, it is the red that really stands out and gets my attention. And uh, so that's one of the things that polychrome did is it added attention to the figures. Here again, we have these bright, warm colors surrounded by the cool greens. And it's not so much cool colors that surround these, but neutral colors. The gray around this helps the warm colors to pop out. And it is the purples that, next to the bright reds and yellows, that cause them to pop out and get our attention. Um, Paint is made from pigments or finely ground color powders mixed with liquid for paint. So the Paleolithic artists used red ochre to make their paints and yellow ochre to make their paints. And so you can discuss that if this is one of your artworks. And the vehicle is the liquid that the pigments are mixed together with. So for oil paint, it would be oil that is mixed with the pigment to make paint. For acrylic paint, it'll be acrylic that is mixed. And for tempera, it is egg that is mixed with the pigments for painting. And so with especially with icons, those were painted with tempera paint that used eggs. You can see the yolk of the egg right here. And we can talk about the pigment or the way that there's plenty of frescoes in the first semester. So we can talk about how frescoes were made. And then optical color is realistic color. So the sky is blue and the tree leaves are green. So if you want something to look realistic, then you will use optical color. And we can see that mostly in the first semester, that a lot of the colors look like how they should be, that the colors reflect what they are trying to express or trying to display. So I think these artists of the first semester were trying to make things look realistic. So they were using mostly realistic color. Arbitrary color is imaginative or creative color. And we can see that in here that the picture here on the left, I don't think the artist was trying to make her skin look green. It just kind of happens that way, that the first layers of the process of tempera painting, they put down a green base, but over time the layers on top of that fade away, and then you are left with the underpainting. Oh yeah, here in the apse of a church, we have some arbitrary colors. It is the background. The sky is gold instead of blue, and then the clouds are these bright wisps of red and blue instead of gray or white. And you can see arbitrary colors in the Minoan mural. Tonality is when one color dominates the artwork. So there's lots of color. I can see red and blue and browns and blacks and but it's the yellow that really dominates this picture. And value is how light or dark something is. White and black and all the grays in between. So when you have black and white photography, there's no color in it at all. There is only values. So we can see values in some of the Paleolithic artworks where they did not use any red ochre or yellow ochre, they just used the charcoal. We can see value in the Asian artworks where they painted with ink, and then the only color then becomes a signature stamp. And then if you have a gradual value change, then you have a calm feeling in your artwork, like this painting by Monet that we'll see next semester. And you kind of have that with the codices. And although I think a lot of that has to do with the fading of the colors over time. Here's another good example of the gradual change in values, that the values are the values of these colors are similar and not too drastic. So they kind of blend in with each other. No one value really stands out, or no one color really stands out. But if the value change is drastic, then we have an active and energetic colors. Notice the bright highlights and the dark shadows of this painting that we'll see next semester. That creates a much more interesting artwork, or it's more dynamic and dramatic. And we can see that here, the very dark background of this up against the white mandorla, it creates a harsh contrast, and it makes it more interesting to look at. And we also have the harsh contrast between the dark fabric and the light fabric. All right, that'll finish us for looking at color for the first semester.